Well, we're
I made
back.
such a dope analogy, guys.
I was wondering why there was nothing happening.
Yeah, I was like, how did nobody catch on to the H2O reference?
Hold
All
on,
right.
hold on. Let's recreate the moment.
It's gone.
Intro music. Bum bum ba-da-dum.
Hey.
We
Deke,
haven't
I
used
really
that one in a while.
appreciate your song stuck in your head right now.
Oh man. I'm gonna take another hit because that was a thing.
There was a whole moment where I was like, oh, they're drinking. I'm going to drink, and couldn't find a cup. There was a whole lot that just happened in 5 minutes.
We were gonna drink with you guys.
Yeah, but we don't have any glasses here.
I offered to spit it into his mouth and he said no. Oh man.
Okay, let's start.
Oh, my husband's also calmer.
Yes, I am. I took time to self-soothe.
He took belly breaths.
That's probably why nothing was working, because I was too focused on calming myself down from the Patreon or the regular live that I needed that extra few minutes to.
You did great.
My brain wasn't working.
We're also 3 paragraphs into the email, guys.
So we're gonna
Starting over. All right. Titled, Desperate for Help.
Okay.
Hey guys, I haven't been on Discord much, more of a silent listener, but I've been on more live stream chats for a little bit now. I've been trying to get myself to send in an email for a while, but I kept deleting it. It's not because I don't want to send, more like there's so much to unpack and I seem to get more overwhelmed. I should start doing once over in emails more often. I'm nailing this. A few weeks ago, I sent a super chat and asked Peaches what she did to get herself back into her feminine, as in from the last relationship to now. I asked this because of my marriage and how things are progressively staying the same. Him watching porn or him reaching out to other women for attention, pics, and sexting. I just want to know that I consider that cheating.
We do as well.
Okay, dope. Everyone's on the same page. First, Peaches said, you realize you're a woman, which, yes, I am. Then I mentioned his emotional infidelity. All right, so I'm going to try to recreate my analogy that I made. So when I said you realize you're a woman, I want to clarify I meant more than you have a vagina. And
Yes, ma'am.
in H2O, there is this magical lagoon pool where the women go into and the moon goes over at a certain time and it shines down. It makes this pool magical and they turn into fucking mermaids. And they're mermaids for the rest of their lives until they go back to the pool on a certain night with a certain moon and the magical beam hits. We are that moon as women. And we create magical things that make a fantastic life. And that's what I meant by realize you're a woman. I feel like the second one was better.
Okay.
Yeah. I love it when I have a second chance on shit. I can get better with things. Then I mentioned his emotional infidelity. Y'all asked me to send in an email. I've had 90% of this written up since right before I asked that. And now, 2 to 3 weeks later, I have to add to it. I ended up talking to my husband a few days after that. And he was all for me sending what I have. But he wanted to make sure I put in how and where he's gotten better. He hasn't. Just last night, I found out with our open phone policy, yes, we actually have that. And it was his idea, not mine, that I mentioned to him. He's back to watching porn. Now I will get into what I have and get back to this part later. Okay, so he's back to watching porn. So at some point he stopped.
Yes, we had a downfall just before Thanksgiving. We actually had plans for Thanksgiving, and I told him at that point that I honestly didn't know if he should come to Thanksgiving with me and our son to my parents' house. He promised he would stop, and we will get into this later if need be, but the promising keeps happening. And then a few months later, or in this case, about 5 months later, happens again. But he did stop for a while, and now just a few nights ago, it was back to it again.
Do you give him credit for the times that he doesn't turn to it?
Yes, and I also tell him that I hope that he knows that he can talk to me when he feels like he needs to go to it. I'm not sure about this time. We haven't talked about that, but usually it's time when he goes back to it is when I'm either not feeling good, which I currently have a cold and I was exhausted, so I went to bed early. And those are usually the times that he reaches out and participates.
Okay. The reason I asked all those questions because I put in how and where he's gotten better and he hasn't. So in saying that he hasn't discredits all the times that he hasn't turned to it and has made it a point not to turn to it. So even though that the cycle has repeated and it's going on, there are efforts being made on his end. And
I realize that.
I think it's important to be able to acknowledge that. All right, so now we're getting to backstory. I have never had a relationship to not physically or emotionally cheat on me. I have my flaws and have cheated one time in a middle school, high school relationship. 3 to 4 months before meeting my now husband, I had gotten out of a 2.5-year relationship, which she cheated on me multiple times with multiple different men. I was only told about 7 of those men at once. Holy shit. She showed complete remorse, and I was in it for marriage. I thought we could work through it. Long story short, that didn't happen because she cheated again. Don't get me wrong, I messed up in that relationship with how things played out. I had since reached out to her 6 months after that and apologized for how I handled things. She had been in a deep cycle with her BPD. Do you mean bipolar or borderline?
Borderline.
Okay. Yes, actually diagnosed and was on lithium.
I've experienced that.
That is terrifying.
Yeah. Well, in the beginning of borderline, well, I mean, obviously it's changed a lot, but in the beginning when borderline was being diagnosed, they treated it a lot like they treated schizophrenics. So lithium was very well used. I spent a lot of my teenage years early on that.
Just real quick, Chris, I'm not sure what a high dosage is, but she was on a very high dosage. And also she did do the brain stimuli,
Okay.
like shock therapy. She had both of those going, but in the mid of our relationship, she finally was getting lower dosages. And then at the end, she was back to being on very high doses.
It's crazy that they're still doing shock therapy. That's something that's not widely used anymore.
Yeah.
This was actually also in about 2017.
Yeah, they stopped. A lot of people stopped doing that in the late 90s, early 2000s. What's the name of this email, babe?
This is desperate for help. ...
I'm trying to. What folder is it in?
I'll come over.
Patreon Live.
Ow.
Oh, I got it. I got it. I needed to read something because I lost my thought and I want to pull it back up and not have you reread it. So, and I'm hoping it'll trigger my.
Okay. Well, I'm still going to wait because you're going to miss things when you're focused on something
No,
else.
I'm skimming. I'm not like reading. I'm just hoping it'll trigger that memory. I was about to take a note.
So back into the email, which now I see maybe what she was doing with me was her splitting, but she took it to cheating versus a breakup or talk.
Infidelity is very, not infidelity, but promiscuous sex is very common with people who have borderline.
It is.
So that has nothing to do with splitting. That's just a personality flaw that we have.
With this, I clearly struggle with boundaries. I always have. Chris, you, and many other men, including my husband, say they're raised to not express emotions, whether that's sad or angry. I was raised almost the same. Different but similar. My emotions always got shut down. I was told I was always in the wrong or I created the issue, and that person had the right to do/say what they did. Mostly, this was my brother I had issues with. No one believed me until I had full proof. But also as a teenager, my mom always shut me down and said things I think no mother should ever feel/say to their daughter. I'm not going to get into it. This is just to show my faults of lack of setting boundaries and sticking to them unless everything blows up. I get that. That was a really hard one for me, especially with the people-pleasing mentality that I was raised into. Setting boundaries becomes a lot easier. It takes practice. My husband and I have been together for 4 years, married for almost 2 in August. We are both 24. We have a beautiful 1-year-old son. My husband and I grew up with similar morals and such, but completely different. I was raised in a Christian home, but after I was 13, my parents just stopped going to church completely. Where my husband was raised Mennonite. Some of his family's churches were more strict than others, which if anyone knows about that, you live how the church wants and agrees on for the community. For his family, his mom and sisters took care of literally everything at home, minus manly duties. From age 13, my husband has been working almost full-time. He dropped out of high school when he was 15. Mennonites are Amish, right? Or is that similar?
It's very similar, yes.
Okay. With all that being said, I am my husband's first relationship, but not his first sexual partner. Which this is a big part. When I met him, I wanted to court, but I told him I didn't want to settle on him at that time. I was still...
I will rephrase that. I'm sorry, just to interrupt you. What I was saying is, like, I didn't want to dive straight into a relationship, like doing the basic courting.
Okay. Thank you for the clarification. I was still fresh out of a relationship, but I wanted to talk more to him and others to find out what I wanted from my next relationship. And I did exactly that. But he doesn't remember that. I knew I told him. I told all of who I was talking to the same thing. Simply, I didn't want to jump into anything, but wanted to create a friendship that could continue if a relationship didn't happen.
I have a huge problem with that.
I agree.
That's leading people on. You could develop friendships. You don't lead them into a friendship with them believing that there could potentially be more. Mm-hmm. If you're going to create a friendship with somebody and that's the intent, create the friendship.
Right.
If it goes beyond that and feelings become a thing, then that's a discussion that needs to be had. But leading into that with, if this becomes more great, gives people false expectations and hope that you shouldn't be giving them. Just for anybody that's listening to this.
Yeah.
And I realized that, and I've since grown from that.
Yep. So some of the things that we get into is not going to be like a fuck you to you guys. It's just going to be generalized statements for other people to hear, because there are people out there who may not have grown past that yet that need to hear it. So I really wish I could remember what I was going to write down. I fucking started writing disassociate and realized I was disassociating as I was trying to write what I was and I went back through and read it. And I can't find the shit.
Oh, no, babe. I'm so sorry.
Yep. It happens.
Least to say, him and I started dating 3 months after meeting. And the same day, COVID shut everything down, March 14th, 2020. I thought things were going great, but I started feeling really uneasy after a bit from dating. And this was one of my major flaws from my last relationship. I checked his phone. It's not an active reason, but my reason was he was acting sketchy like my ex. He was acting sketchy like my ex. So I'm going to rephrase this just to give an example of how to maybe better convey the thought process, because active reason doesn't make sense to me. I would have said it's not a logical reason, but my reason was he was acting sketchy like my ex, because that shows that there was a trauma response invoked. And you checking the phone was a survival mechanism that was learned in the previous relationship.
That also removes the blame and the you statement and all of that and makes it about me.
Right. And there it was, emotional cheating, pictures, sexting, all of the above. With this being a thing in all of my relationships, I thought it was a me issue. I thought I will never have something without it. Therefore, it continues. With this being a thing in all of my relationships, I thought it was a me issue. I thought I will never have something without it. Therefore, it continues. Do you mean the cheating?
Yes, I thought in the moment
Okay.
that any relationship I would ever be in,
They were going to cheat.
this would happen in every single one of them.
Okay. I'm sorry that you felt that way.
This is going to be one of the few times that I do this, but I was thinking it. Somebody in the chat said most of the time when you go looking for something, you find something. Mm-hmm. We've talked about this at length because it doesn't matter what you're looking for. If you go in there with an expectation to find something, you're going to find something that you may not think is a negative most of the time, but it's going to trigger you.
Right.
And it could be a conversation that, for example, it could be a conversation that they had with their mom or their best friend about the relationship. And that could become a problem. Mm-hmm. There's nothing good that's going to come from anybody's personal conversations because even if it wasn't a text message, people go to their parents about shit. People go to their friends and their mentors for advice. And when it's in writing and there's no contextual emotion to it, there's no emotion conveyed. It's very just black and white. And the way that you feel is how you're going to make it read. Mm-hmm. It changes things quite a bit. This is why we've also said the entire time on the podcast that when you feel the need to go through your person's phone because you don't trust them anymore, the trust is gone.
Yeah, there's already a problem.
Right. And that's the issue that needs to be discussed, not, you know what I mean? Not, I need to see your phone. I don't fucking trust you anymore.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, so back into the email. Therefore, it continues, meaning the cheating, so much all throughout a relationship. I can't promise physical cheating hasn't happened, but he says it's never occurred. When I say all thought out, I literally mean up until a few months ago and then back to happening last night. All times, including in our engagement, honeymoon, and start of the marriage. Okay, so you caught him cheating in the engagement?
Yes, I did catch him in the engagement, including the week of our wedding. I will pause real quick to go back to the me not having a clear answer if active cheating happens, like physical cheating happens. He and I talked over since right before this, and he did clarify no physical cheating has happened.
Which tells me okay. So without going any further into the email, that tells me that there's emotional needs not being met in the relationship to some degree. Mm-hmm. And there is a self-worth going on in him. And he's probably, and this is all speculative, we'll obviously get into that. There's got to be something in him that's getting validation from the flirting and the back and forth that he's probably not getting in the marriage or doesn't believe. And I'm going to move over here so I can see without having to be all weird about it. This comes down to I have no self-worth, right? For example. And I know when we first started courting, you being about me made me feel really good. And you still do that and try to make me feel really good. But over the years,
you stopped believing it.
It doesn't hold the same weight as it did in the beginning when things were new and shiny because I've heard it so much. It's become habitual. I know it hasn't because you tell me at really fucking weird times. I know it's not habitual, but I view that lip service the same way that I view the I love you goodbye when you hang the phone up. It just is a necessary phrase because it's a part of your day-to-day existence. You want them to know how you feel and you may never talk to them again. Right. So like, I think I think it just doesn't carry the same weight. And when people fawn over you and you feel less about yourself and you allow them to fill your cup, you're more likely to go back to get that dopamine response. There's an attention deficit that's happening there and that your love meters are empty, your self-worth meters, however you want to word that. It just needs to be fulfilled. And that is a character flaw. I am curious to see if I'm right.
Okay.
I would say it is more self-worth. Um, yeah, I would definitely say it's more feeling self-worth than anything else. Um, it's definitely been a struggle of mine.
Okay.
Back into the email. Babe?
Yeah, I have other thoughts. I'm gonna make notes
Okay.
right now, but I want to wait to see if I'm right.
All times, including in our engagement, honeymoon, start of the marriage, during the birth of our son in the hospital, while I was healing, a lot more during that, until around Thanksgiving.
I'm listening.
I know, I'm trying not to get pissed off. Because I understand that there is a lack of self-worth going on and there is needs not being fulfilled. The selfishness and the cheating, though, it gets under my skin. This woman gave birth and was healing from that. And the cheating increased because there was an increased lack of fulfillment, which I can understand. This is me processing my emotions and my own cognitive biases.
Well, we've talked about this at length.
Yeah.
When you have a new baby in the picture and there's postpartum depression and the body's changing and there's healing and there's no
changes
sleep
everything.
and the stress and it absolutely does. And for men, when we are used to having the attention to not getting any attention and everything else dictating where the attention goes, our stress levels go up.
Yeah.
The relationship shifts for us. We feel like nothing more than a provider. And just being a provider doesn't satiate the needs that men have in terms of what it means to be a man.
Right.
So that whole situation is a very tricky situation, and it's hard for a lot of fucking people because men see it the way men see it, women see it the way women see it, and we never see it across the board. And even more than not seeing it across the board, we fail to talk about it.
Right.
Because if you're going through postpartum and you're healing and you're stressed out from being a mom, and I'm stressed out from work and feeling like a provider, and I need emotional attention and needs met or physical needs met, and I bring it up, I'm now a fucking predator. I'm a problem.
Right.
I have no body autonomy and all that fucking nonsense that people say.
Sorry, I think we lost you guys.
That's odd. I can hear you.
Okay, the last part we heard was men understand men, women understand women, and that's like when it cut off.
I wonder why that happened.
No, I don't know.
I don't remember where I was going with all that. I just lost the entire train of thought.
I apologize.
It's not your fault. Zoom shut out.
During that time, also like postpartum wise, this also comes in with my self-worth. I was literally burying myself and I was too stuck into my postpartum and I was in flight or flight with my postpartum, and part of me feels like I was not giving him what he needed during that time, which I fully see. And we've also talked about at length on how his needs were not being met, especially during that time.
Okay. Yeah, that's basically what I was getting at, is that it's very few and far between that the actual needs are discussed, and people tend to fall apart and not have the discussions that need to be had while that's happening. But I think that those situations, it's hard on men just like it's hard on women, but for different reasons.
Right.
Zach said that it must be their internet because he heard it through the Zoom and it was perfectly fine.
Okay. Back to the email. Whenever we talk about when we got together and how the beginning started, he always says if he knew I was talking to other people, he wouldn't have continued to talk to me. Okay, I'm going to scroll back up.
That falls into the self-worth thing. That insecurity.
Yes. So you gave an example of saying that you were looking for friendship, and if it didn't evolve into a relationship, you wanted to remain friends. Were you telling people that you were talking to other people, or were you just giving that blurb of, I'm not looking for anything, but if it evolves, dope?
I told people that, hey, I don't want to seem like, oh, I'm just going to say it. I don't want to seem like a whore. But during that time, I was trying to know what I wanted in my next relationship. And I did tell people, hey, I'm not going to, if you're cool with this and we still talk as friends, I don't want to lead you on. But I did tell people, I told everyone that I was talking to, friendship wise, that I wanted it to evolve into a friendship and then see where things go.
Right, but were you letting people know that you were talking to other people as well and entertaining the possibility of relationships forming?
I guess that's the way you could say it, yes.
But you were letting other people know, like, hey, Joe, I'm talking to Bob and Mike.
Right. That's because that's not a guess you can say. That's a very clear
Right.
I was or I was not. So if you were talking to people and you were trying to establish friendships with multiple people at the same time, that is talking to multiple people.
Yeah.
She's asking if everybody knew that you were talking to other people while that was happening.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay. So if he knew that I was talking to other people, he wouldn't have continued to talk to me, which I have said to him that that's bullshit because I know I did. Okay, so you can't tell him that that's bullshit because have you guys seen that clip from Neil deGrasse Tyson where he's sitting in a courtroom and the judge says something to him and he says something to the judge and he was like, oh, did you just say you don't want to be a part of this jury? And another person on the jury stand said, that's not what he just said to you.
Right.
So even the judge who just witnessed that conversation had the conversation wrong. The human memory is a very, very fickle thing. You can believe and stand on the ground of, I know that I told him that, but to tell him that his experience was bullshit, I bet adds on to his lack of self-worth.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. It's also important to remember that not only do we remember things differently, because obviously that courtroom situation was instant. Like that was an instantaneous thing.
It was.
That comes down to our cognitive bias and the way that we respond to situations. You and I are, this is our biggest issue in our relationship. That situation is our biggest issue because you will say something and I will hear it.
Right.
And I will pick it the fuck apart and try to find what you're actually saying to me. And sometimes what you're saying is what you're saying. But that's not what I fucking heard.
Right.
Because I took it the way I took it. I got emotional or in my feelings about things, and now I need fucking clarity, right? And
Yeah.
I'll be like, "Well, you just said," and you'd be like, "That's not what I said." I'm like, "You just fucking said that to me." It really
Right.
does come down to, you may have said XYZ, but I heard ABC, and now we're having fucking problems because that's not what you said. Sometimes what you say and what conveys in what you say does not add up. You know, there's intent and meaning behind the words. And sometimes we do that.
Yeah.
Like if you say something to me and you're very direct and I take it the way that I take it because it made me feel something or relive something, I'm going to hear your intent
With your bias.
with my fucking bias. And it would have nothing to do with you.
Right.
And it could be a conversation that has nothing to do with me at all. But I didn't like that shit. So now we have to have a fucking talk about it.
Right.
Right? So we know that that's a thing to that degree. This is something that is common for everyone, which is why you need to pause and be like, I just heard you say,
Right.
that's not what I said. Okay, then I need you to reword it because that's how I fucking took it.
Right.
Yeah.
I also want to touch on
Me? Brown chicken, brown cow.
ow. He always says if he knew that I was talking to other people, he wouldn't have continued to talk to me. That doesn't fucking matter because you're still choosing to be with this woman. So constantly throwing in her face that, well, if I knew this, I wouldn't be with you. Imagine what that's doing to her self-worth. You can't change anything that you did in the past. You need to focus on what you're doing right now and what you want in the future.
Yeah. Yep.
You want to move on?
Yeah.
Okay. But all of his issues with emotional cheating happened in our relationship. He knows there was one case that I started entertaining one male. Ever since, he's been blocked, and never again have I allowed anyone to talk to me that way. All right, is this the middle school, high school thing that you were talking about, or is this a second instance of cheating or entertaining something?
This was me entertaining another man, and I told my husband, this is when we were dating. I told my husband about this instance, and ever since that conversation, like it was for a very short time, that's not justifying what happened. Like, that's not me justifying it, but I did tell him, and right before we even talked, I blocked this person, and I've not ever reached out to them ever again.
So you guys were dating at that point?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so what's the difference between entertaining somebody and emotionally cheating?
I take it the same. That was my one. I'm not, like I said, I'm not justifying it.
Right.
That I was wrong in that.
I'm just asking because you
100%.
phrased it as him emotionally cheating when he's talking to other women, but when you were talking about it within yourself, you said entertaining. And that lightens the blow of what you did, even though you consider it to be the same thing.
Yeah. I would also like to point out that if his reality is that she never told him that, and that he would not be with her if that was the case, to find out later that she was in fact talking to somebody else would be a reason to, it would create that insecurity. Like,
Yeah.
even though there was honesty about it afterwards, there's always going to be that, well, how do I know that's not happening again?
Yeah.
Right. This is a big thing when people,
It's
when
reality
there's
shifting.
Right.
Yeah.
When infidelity happens, there's always going to be that, what if?
Yeah.
Right.
Back into the email.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I've wanted to leave. I was preparing for it. Then the talk of the roommate stage fully happening. But every time he sucked me back in, I sucked myself back in throughout everything. He's listening to the podcast. I gave him two choices: either listen to the podcast actively or redo marriage and individual counseling. Took him a while to stick to the podcast, but he's finally actively listening. I do see change. But what I can say, I haven't checked his phone, but I can say I haven't checked his phone in a while. Okay, so you mean you see change in him?
Yes, I did see change in him. To clarify real quick, I thought he was, which we agreed to talk about this just very briefly. I thought he was actively listening, but I evidently am wrong. He's only on episode 6, which he's growing a lot from that episode. But for a few months, it's been portrayed to me that he is actively listening. But yes, I do see some changes in him, and I have seen changes in him up until a few nights ago.
Okay. So what is your definition of actively listening to something?
What I mean by actively listening is when we talked about either me having wanting him to listen to the podcast or us go to individual counseling or marriage counseling, what I said to him is, if he listens to the podcast, I would like for him to listen to at least 1 or 2 episodes a week. I am able to listen at work, and I am all throughout all the podcasts now, and I'm up to date because of me listening so much while at work. He can't fully listen at work, so I asked him, hey, 1 or 2 episodes a week, please, and he agreed.
That's a lot.
It is. Well, when you think about our beginning,
They're 3 to 4 hours long.
some of them were 4 hours long.
Yeah.
Like that's a long fucking time. So for somebody to listen to 6 hours of podcast or even 5 hours of podcast throughout the course of the week, if they're not able to do that while at work and they only can listen while driving, that adds up.
It does.
So
May I cut in real quick
Absolutely.
and make mention of something here? The reason why I can't listen to it at work, I do construction. I build homes, and so that's one thing I can't listen to it while at work. And then my drive home is literally a minute drive from the shop, and it's kind of hard for me to listen to while driving from the job site to the shop with being with other coworkers. I'm not trying to make excuses, just trying to, I guess, put it into a little perspective
Well, I
of
don't think you're making
why it is
excuses at all.
harder for me to listen to it.
So
Correct me if I'm wrong.
I don't think it's excuses either. You could absolutely find the time. However, that would mean that you're taking time away from other things.
Right.
If she's able to listen at work and she's got 6 to 8 hours in a work schedule where she can listen to the podcast and do her job, and you don't have that opportunity,
That's a leg up.
it is a leg up. She has an advantage to this entire situation because she has the ability to do those things. And in order for you to do that, it would mean that you have to take time away from other things in your life to prioritize listening to the podcast.
And I mean, it sounds like you have. You're 6 episodes in.
He has made the effort to, and I do see that. And when I wrote the email about him like listening to one or two episodes a week, I do realize that he doesn't have as much time as I do, and maybe I
you
was
just said
kind
that
of
when you wrote
giving.
the active listening, you just recognized that that's not happening because he's only on episode 6. That wasn't in the email. You just said that.
I apologize.
Okay.
I guess in my mind, like I had strong hope that he would be further than what he is right now. And yes, I do have 8 hours of able to listening to the podcast. And I do realize now that he doesn't really have that much time during the week that I do.
This is the ultimate perception is reality argument.
is.
And it's playing out in real time because you believe everyone has the same life you have, even though you know they work and do that shit. If
Yeah.
I can do it, they can do it.
Right.
Yeah. Yep.
May I make a comment about episode 6 that has really stuck to me? Something that Peach said.
You don't have to ask permission to speak, my guy. You can just
Okay.
talk. Yeah.
All right. Something that has really hit me hard that you said. You made reference to you were driving down the interstate and you saw a sign that said left lane ends, merge right.
Mm-hmm.
And you said, wow, life really sometimes throws you in a loop and makes you merge into the opposite lane.
Mm-hmm. And you
Kind
don't have a
of
choice.
something that has stuck with me on that is I've been one of those people that has been struggling in life with porn addiction, and I've been struggling to get out of that lane. And I know I need to, and I'm at my end. I need to merge into that right lane. I need to get things straight.
What was that episode that we did with what was his name?
Emmanuel.
Emmanuel.
Yeah. Yeah, we did an episode with somebody who actually has a website that is a porn addiction
Support group.
and I can't think of the name of it. I'm sure one of the mods can post it if it needs to happen. But how crazy is it that something that was just like an epiphany for you while driving has been life altering for somebody else?
Oh, it blows my mind because it was just
I
a
remember
stupid
that
thought.
conversation.
Me too. It was a stupid thought I had getting onto the interstate.
But I would have never thought about that again past that podcast.
Really?
Yeah,
I
never thought
I think
about
it sometimes.
Do you really?
Because when you merge onto the interstate, you either merge or you fuck your car up.
Yeah.
And life forces you to do that. You either adapt and accept that this is what's happening, or you're gonna fuck yourself up. Back into the email, babe?
Yep.
Okay. But I can say I haven't checked his phone in a while, and I'm trying not to. I'm trying to trust because I know it'd be the last time for me. Not checking somebody's phone when that's ingrained in you for self-preservation is a fucking hard thing to do. Because all you want to do is to feel better about it, and you know checking your phone and checking his phone and finding nothing is going to satiate that panic and anxiety in you. So definitely give yourself credit for fighting that urge. That is part of the growth. Oh man, I'm shivering. It's so cold in here. I'm trying to be more in my feminine. I want to be. I used to be more before marriage. I was more before our son was born too, but with this repeating cycle, I feel lost as a woman and as a wife, and partly as a mother. Especially with me working in a male industry full time. I can explain if need be, but financially we needed. Oh, excuse me. With that said, I also struggle with how things are with his family, more specifically his parents. His parents, like I said, has the traditional woman is the homemaker and men provide. His mom had no choice but to end her LPN career and become a stay-at-home mom. Right after we got married and came back from the honeymoon, I quit my warehouse job. I was 23-ish weeks pregnant, but I had a part-time job lineup that I started immediately, which truly was a good thing for us, but financially it was rough. His mom looked at me multiple times and said, "I'm needing to protect my son." You may ask why. I don't know, and I still don't. Why was your mom saying that?
I truly do not even know why she was saying that. I see no reason for her to be trying to protect me from my wife. My wife is not dangerous. I mean, yeah, sometimes she can, scare the crap out of me, but um,
But a mom just doesn't
no,
say that. Like,
no,
there was never an
I
outlash
truly,
of she's not good enough for you, or
I sorry to chime in. They have not just his mom, but his dad has also told me. I don't remember if this was privately or if it was in front of everyone else, but they did say that they're very shocked that he went for a woman like me, and that they did not expect that at all from him. I'm not sure if that's because he didn't go along the Mennonite community. But that's something that has stuck in my brain of maybe the reason why, but we're truly not sure.
This is why we tell people to keep their parents out of the relationship.
yeah.
Which we especially don't get them involved in what's happening in our marriage. Even when we were dating, we talked and we said that we don't want anyone of our families included in our relationship and our problems. We especially kept that true. At least he has up until here recently, when I completely had a mental break. My mom knows a little bit, and we talked about this right before the live call about how I feel regret about even telling my mom my heartache and my heart, like what I'm struggling with. And I know that you guys have this especially said that you guys will never talk to your families about the struggles in your marriage. And I 100% condone, like, I love that about you guys, because in my past, it was either you just suck it up and you just go on with life, or you talk. And when you talk to people, that's when the biases happen. And that also is true to my brother's marriage. And all my family knows about the struggles in his relationship. So we did both agree that that was not to happen. And I will say I somewhat broke that because of my heartache, and I needed guidance. And I did reach out to my mom in that instance.
Needed guidance over what?
Over our situation of the corn addiction,
Okay.
and also him entertaining women. And my mom tried to guide me a little bit, but she did perceive it from a biased standpoint.
Okay. After having our son, I didn't let her come help me at our home, but she started watching him while I worked part-time. And then it was, I'm needing to protect my son and my grandson. And now I say, again, I still don't know. That stuck with me. It sounds like they have a problem with the fact that you're not a Mennonite, and they have a problem with the fact that he's married outside of their religion.
Yeah, it could be more than that though.
Yeah.
So there's a lot that could be going on here, and I'm gonna just throw a few things out. As somebody who has like a truly abusive parent set, like I have watched my mom manipulate and poison every relationship I have ever had that she had the ability to do so. You can call it an inappropriate relationship because she's just trying to protect me or keep me to herself or whatever you want to call that. But she did that repeatedly. Every opportunity she got, she tried to destroy my fucking life. Didn't matter. It was my jobs. Literally anything that she could do to keep me there was a thing.
Right, because they need the power.
Right. Well, and on top of that, I was also abused.
Right.
So like there was a whole lot of things that were going on behind the scenes that's a thing. There's also a possibility where in a moment of vulnerability, he may have said something offhanded to his mom about the relationship. And now she has that in and believes that she needs to come in and be mama bear and protect her son. Right. So those are things to also consider in a scenario like this. Okay. Yep. I'm going to grab a snack real quick.
Okay, I'm going to keep reading. But also, his father says things to me all the time. It's always, I don't know my son. Not said in that all the time, but he'll say it in different ways. Or it's a general statement, how I, as a wife, am ridiculous. Simply because I request the general respect of my husband communicating to me. If I need to be more specific, let me know. My husband says he's talked to his parents, but he's never picked apart what's needed. It's always very general, which never fixes anything. Other than I don't get told my mother-in-law is protecting my husband or my son from me anymore. I will also say, never once have I gotten an apology from his mom directly. I only have gotten a single text from his dad saying he's sorry about me not being shown love or appreciation from them. Sadly to say, I'm not the only daughter-in-law, and yes, she's dealt with it too.
Nobody owes you an apology.
Yeah, nobody's owed anything. Yeah. Now for my questions. How do I move forward with everything? Where can I start in handling myself and my emotions? My first recommendation would be to understand that your perspective is not the only perspective. And
we learned that one already.
well, I want to point out specifically within this email, I read something, you pointed out something about him dedicating time to watching the podcast, and that actually hasn't been a thing because he's only watched six episodes.
Right. That's what I was referring to.
Right. And then the reference to, oh, well, I said that in the email. I understand that emotions are probably high right now and there's a lot of anxiety and this is a very intense and stressful thing. I just want to point out that in high emotional points like this, perspectives can be skewed. What you think you said, more than likely you didn't say or wasn't conveyed properly. I would recommend definitely taking a step back and say you say something and he has a reaction that you were not expecting. Ask him, what did you just hear me say? Because that is not how I thought you would react to what I was saying. So that tells me that I'm not communicating properly. I know I've heard Peaches say something about how she's handled a situation if she was constantly emotionally cheated on. I know I've heard Peaches say something about how she'd handle a situation. What did I say about handling the situation?
I can't remember the exact episode, but I especially do remember I sent my husband a TikTok about when you and Chris both said, you know, you'll only try so much, but if it keeps happening, you'll res- re- resolute your relationship.
Yep. Because at that point, if it continues to happen and there's no change on the other person's end, there's nothing else that I can do. Yep. I still stand by that.
There's a lot. I mean, that's so, and this is the problem with a TikTok clip.
Mm-hmm.
Because even though that came from a podcast, that alone could generate an entire conversation.
Right.
And it could right now because of what was just said.
Mm-hmm.
In the event that I emotionally cheated on you and we had a really long drawn out and I said it would never happen again, and 6 months later it happened again, I would imagine that the first conversation would be rough, probably hard for a week or two.
I wouldn't even be able to look at you. Yeah.
Probably hard for a week or two.
Mm-hmm.
And then we would slowly get back into the groove of things. And then after that first little talk and things got rough, when it got good, it would get real good. And things would get back to new and we would be excited to be around each other again because we just overcame a really big fucking hurdle and like we found resolution. I'm not fucking around no more. Like our relationship is good. I'm in love again. You're in love again. Things are great. And then things will fall back into the routine that we had before that happened. And then if it happened again,
The fight to be together ensues.
right. And it would be the what the fuck? Well, you said you would never do this again. Well, you know, things have changed again. It's been 6 months and things don't feel the way they did 3 months ago. You're bringing up old shit or we're fighting again or you're nagging or I'm a dick or whatever the issue is. Like things are not resolved. We had a really good couple of months because we had a big fight and we were grateful for each other again. But I also think that comes down to why people emotionally cheat. I know that there are people out there who do it just because they're insecure. I think for the vast majority of people, though, they do it because it scratches an itch for them. They're getting a need filled that they're not getting in their relationship. And sometimes the person that's getting cheated on could be doing everything right. And it could still be a character flaw in that person in that, you know, they just don't see the value in things anymore, or they just need to feel good about themselves. This is a serial dater.
Yeah.
This is also a borderline thing and why people have the promiscuous lives that they have. We have friends who have borderline and that's one of their big things. And we know that they've slept with hundreds of fucking people and they're married. Like it's just something that they've all accepted and it doesn't make it right or wrong. That's their life. And they've made that work with what they have. I would not live like that. You would not live like that, but they are making that work for them. But that also comes down to an intelligent conversation. Like, look, this is the way that I deal with things. And I'm happy in this aspect of my life. I just need these other needs met. That's not a fuck you thing. It's not a you're doing wrong thing. This is a me flaw, you know, but how often those conversations get had as well?
Oh, and very rarely.
Because in this email, there's something going on with him.
Right.
And it's not about him at all. It's about her and the way that she feels and the way that he makes her feel by doing these things. Have you guys ever had a conversation about why the corn addiction is actually a thing or why he emotionally cheats? What's missing that's making him want to do those things? Because if you haven't had that conversation yet, you're not communicating.
No.
I don't think we fully deep dived it. We briefly covered it. I do remember that he did say that he doesn't know why he goes back to it.
That's bullshit.
That is bullshit. Yeah.
We know. We may not be able to articulate it, but we know. And sometimes that we don't know is to prevent hurting you.
Right.
It could be, and this is just speculation. I have no idea what you look like. So if I, don't take offense to this, but you could have gained weight. You could have lost weight. You had a baby. Maybe stretch marks doesn't do it for him. Maybe sex is too vanilla. There's a kink.
It could be a plethora of
It could be 1,000 fucking things. But telling somebody who just had a baby or has a baby mom body, like, hey, I don't appreciate the stretch marks. Your tits sag now. I want to lick your feet. Whatever it is, like there's a fear in having that conversation. And that speaks on the safety of being able to talk to your person. Right. So that when a man tells you, I don't know, it's either they haven't really processed what's happening yet, or they're afraid to talk to you. I don't believe, I don't know. I don't believe that that's a thing. If I'm doing something like that, I don't know is not an answer. I know
Right.
why I'm doing the shit that I'm doing.
Yeah.
Because it doesn't just happen.
No.
Right. Like, and if somebody gives you a little bit of attention and you feel really good about it and you don't feel guilty, that says a whole lot.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
It also says a lot that it's a cycle.
Yeah.
Because if you're able to go for 6 or 7 months without looking at corn, and then you're suddenly looking at corn, you know what the reason is. Yeah.
I was speaking more on the emotional cheating aspect than the
Oh.
corn thing, to be specific.
Okay.
But I think the corn thing, I guess maybe I can't really speak on that because I've never had an addiction to corn.
Yeah.
But I have had an addiction to attention.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's normal for people with borderline. That people become your favorite person for a reason. You know what I mean? And like when I was younger, that was a very hard thing for me. But as I've grown up and I understand my triggers and shit, that doesn't fuck with me like it used to. The porn thing, I think, comes from a need not being met. Like she said earlier on, you know, she wasn't feeling good and he went to watch because he had a need that needed to be met. Delayed gratification. That was what I was trying
There
to
you
write down
go.
instead of disassociating. That's funny. Love that. Oh man, my brain is a wonderful fucking mess. Okay. We'll come back to that
Okay.
because that's a whole different discussion.
Okay. Do you want me to continue reading?
Yeah.
We talk about having another baby, but I will say now that's completely off the table for me now. To think about everything that's happened, especially in the hospital giving birth. How long do we wait? What do you mean, how long do we wait? Wait for what?
Wait, as in, how long do we wait to go about the conversation of having another baby? Because at this point, I don't even want to talk about having another baby for at least 6 months
Oh God,
after
no, there shouldn't be
he
a time
started
frame on this.
out.
There's no
Pardon
time
me?
frame on this. You guys
Yeah.
need to get your shit together before even thinking about discussing the possibility of another child. You don't put time frames on marriages, and you don't put time frames on having kids. Because what happens in that year when your 1 year mark comes up and you're like, all right, I guess we're going to have a kid now because this is what agreed upon, but you're still watching corn. No. A second child should be the last thing on your guys' mind right now.
Right now, I would like to say that I am in search of help. I want help to overcome this corn addiction. I am in the process of finding a counselor, someone that can give me, what do you call it, like therapy or counseling. I want to overcome this. I want to become the man I need to be for my wife and for my son. I want to be a good role model for my son, and I want to be the man that my wife falls in love with every single day, over and over again. I know I have an addiction, and I know I need to do something about it. And I am ready for change. I want change. I want my wife to fully love me again.
Well, I mean, it's good that you want that. It's going to take work and you need to be patient and understand that. I am putting a link to Team Vulnerable in the Zoom chat. This is a free 30-day program from them. Emmanuel is somebody that we had on the podcast. He actually was somebody who was very well off. He, millionaire doing TED Talks. Like he was a big deal. And he had a corn addiction and he left the field he was in. And now this is what he does for a living. So there's a 30-day program link I put in there. It's teamvulnerable.com. For any of you guys who are having issues with this, you can go look at that website. It's one thing to say those things that you just said to us. It's another to implement them and show your wife. So I'm curious, what are you doing to implement change other than talking about getting help? Are you having moments where you're wanting to look at corn and you're like, hey, babe, I got an itch. Like I need some sort of affection right now. I need a release. Like whatever it is. Like I think that if you have those conversations and you're able to be honest, at least you'll feel at that point you have some sort of support system. On the opposite side of that, she's got to be willing to be that pillar of support, or you're not going to ever get past that. If you can't talk to your person, everything else is going to fall apart. This is no different than women needing to feel safe to have emotional intimacy in the relationship. If men don't feel safe talking to our women, what is the point of being with a woman? because you can get sex anywhere. Pussy's a flooded fucking market. It's all over the place. Women are giving it away like it's fucking free.
It is free.
It is. So, well, it hasn't been for the last 100,000 years. We've paid for it in one way or another. Now that's not the case. So if that's the case and you are just trying to sleep with people, there's no reason to be in a relationship. You're not getting anything of value from it. But if you want to have a partner and you need somebody to be your support pillar and you are willing to be as open and forthcoming as you can, you are going to get much better results if your person is just as true to the situation as you are. Mm-hmm. There's a whole lot of people out there that think that they can have that with somebody and the other person is just not that person for them. And it ends up blowing up in their face. It creates trauma responses and like it creates more issues later down the road. And if you as a man can't talk to your woman that way, or she as a woman can't talk to you and her needs that way, you both are failing each other in terms of being husband and wife. Yep.
I do get that, and I am actually trying to talk to her more when I do feel the urge. It is hard for me to tell her because I feel like even telling her that I have the urge is letting her down again.
Why?
Um,
Why would having the urge let her down? If you're able to have the conversation that I'm wanting to do this and she's able to talk to you and you don't do it, that's a victory.
Yeah.
Doing it is the problem. Thinking about doing it is a different scenario. The alcoholics go to AA. Mm-hmm. Like those support groups are there for a reason. You fucking need those. The 12-step program was invented for a fucking reason. If you can have that support system in your partner and you guys can be honest about it and she's not getting upset, and that's the key. If she's not getting upset.
I struggle with, throughout all our relationship, I've always felt like with all the emotional cheating that I have done, I feel like I have constantly done nothing but let her down.
Yeah.
And I feel like even telling her different things at times is like me even thinking about things at times is me letting her down again. It's something I struggle with.
Okay, so this is going to sound really harsh. You do need to accept that you have let your wife down over and over again. And I know that there is a shame that comes with that and there is a guilt that comes with that, but that's reality. And feeling like you have let her down is accurate. And going to her about what you're thinking, though, would you rather go to her and say, hey, look, this is what's going on, and have the conversation and allow the room to let her be the support system and allow her to be your wife and get you guys through that? Or actually turn and go do the thing and do the thing that you are in fear of doing and it is letting her down?
I would rather talk to her about it and get it out in the open and make where she can be my support through that time and I guess help me overcome that.
So what do you need from her to be able to have those conversations? What will make you feel comfortable in saying, hey, babe, this is what's going on?
Guess I struggle with feeling that she will truly be there for me, aside of just other than just being angry with me about it.
Has that been her typical reaction? Is that now your anticipated, that's how she's going to react?
Yes, I would say so.
Yeah, that's that trained behavior that we talk about. I was waiting, and I don't want to forget what I'm going to say, so I'm just going to interject myself. Your past is your past. You did that shit, right? And this is one of those things that you can either accept that you did it, let go of the guilt, and move forward, or you can continue living in the past. And if you continue living in the past, you're not going to be able to move forward.
Your past will become your present.
Right.
And it will be your future.
I have on this podcast numerous times talked about the type of man that I was. And if I dwelled on that, I would have never been able to move forward to become the man that I am. And if I dwell on the man that I am, I'm never going to become the man that I want to be. And I'm not there yet. But I don't hold remorse for my past. There are things that I've done that has hurt people, and that sucks. And would I being the man that I am now, would I have like talked my younger self out of doing those things? Absolutely. Can I do that? No. The past doesn't exist anymore.
Right.
That doesn't mean that the things that you do right now won't be your past in the future. And with that logic, you still have to make good decisions in the now.
Yeah.
Right? So that you don't have to look back in the future and go, past me was a piece of shit or whatever. But you don't live in the past. Neither does she.
Right.
These things happened. That whole it is what it is mindset, it's acceptance. If you truly believe it is what it is, it is what it was. That's not who I am anymore. I'm going to start making the change. This did not serve me. I've hurt my wife. I have failed as a man. I want to be better. So it needs to be from a point of I'm going to do right, not from a point of guilt. Because if it comes from a point of guilt, shame, and judgment, those are control mechanisms.
Yeah.
And that's that also comes down to they owe me an apology, since we're talking on that, because I wrote that note down. If you feel somebody owes you an apology, that is a control mechanism. You are trying to get them to bend to your will to do something to suit your needs. And this falls into the stories that we tell ourselves and the meaning that we put on these things. Like if, for example, if your wife puts your insecurities and the emotional cheating into a perspective that is not factual, and that is her reality, your reality is now being overlooked because she believes what she believes. And if that conversation is never had and you guys don't come to a consensus, the realities will never line up. You're never going to get past this. That's her trying to control the situation instead of trying to understand it. So I truly believe that you need to approach this from how does this serve me? Because if you're looking at corn or you're emotionally cheating on your woman or you're talking to other women or whatever it is that you're doing, if you do feel bad about what you've done, this is how you make amends and you move forward. If you have apologized and there's actual remorse there, good.
Yeah.
If you don't have remorse, don't apologize. It's lip service. It's fucking wasted wind. It doesn't mean anything. Your actions are going to show your intent moving forward. If you're going to sign up for the team vulnerable thing and do the 30-day thing, she can do it with you. That is part of the program that Emmanuel has set up so that you guys can do it together, because he has said the same thing. It needs to be both people involved because you create a support system.
Yeah.
I'm a big second chances person.
Me too.
I'm a big third chances, fourth chances. And I have burned myself with the bridges that are on fire trying to fucking help people cross that lit that shit. Because I want people to grow. And sometimes you just can't. You can't make somebody do something. And sometimes you have to sever ties and move away from things if they continue to set the shit on fire. But your actions are your own. So you need to figure out what it is that you're doing, like why, the why of things. And she needs to understand it so that she can understand what she needs to look for with your triggers.
Yes.
Because if she doesn't understand your triggers and you're going through something, this plays into the previous podcast where somebody was like, I always know when my man's going to do something. No, the fuck you don't.
Right.
We don't know how to explain what we're going through most of the time. And until we can have that conversation, you don't know shit. You just see that I'm having a bad day or I'm tired, exhausted, or whatever. We have to be able to be open with our communication, and this is how we grow. And if she can't separate what happened a year ago, 5 years ago, or 3 weeks ago from what's currently happening, and she's getting hurt by the fact that you are having addiction needs, that is a different discussion in its own.
Right.
Because you're trying to make amends and grow and be better, and she is still hung up on the personal feelings of this is wrong.
In the past.
Well, it is wrong. It would be a whole lot wronger if he actually followed through with going to a website or reaching out to a coworker or doing whatever it is that they're doing. That's the conversation that needs to be had. I honestly, it's very hard for me to put myself in these situations with you. Having
me?
these, yeah, because I would not want to see your face if I told you that I was interested in another woman. That the disappointment, the disapproval, the hurt that would come from that would break me. And I fucking know that. But I also think that knowing that I would hurt you in that aspect, and the way that that would make you feel would make it so that in the event that I was starting to not be okay with something or started to be like, oh, well, she's kind of attractive, I'm fucking telling on myself. Because I would rather you know that I'm not okay and that we aren't okay than for me to do something that I can't correct. Because I can correct hey, our sex life is fucked up.
Right.
I can correct I'm sorry I haven't told you you're beautiful in the last 3 fucking weeks, right? I can correct that shit because that's a me problem. This is just an oversight. But I know that these things are coming. And if I can't pay attention to my own fuck ups, how am I going to correct my fuck ups? Because this is a self-awareness. And that comes, so there's a lot of, oh man, that's a lot. My brain just went to 900. I just did a peaches.
You just did a me?
I went from point 1 to point 979, like that.
Yeah.
And now we're having 4 conversations at once. So I'm going to stop talking.
Okay, well, I'm going to jump on.
Okay.
So,
Are you jumping on point 980? Or,
oh, I don't know.
Okay.
I'm just going off the rails
Yep.
like a crazy train.
Yeah.
I would 100% prefer you telling me, like, hey, babe, I was out today, and this girl walked past me, and I looked at her. I would rather hear you tell me that, and we fix whatever is going on versus finding out that you fucked somebody. That would probably make me want to blow my brains out.
Right. Well, and see, that's the difference in conversation. I think that if I told you, like, I caught myself checking another woman out today,
Yeah, my pride would be hurt. My
Right.
feelings would be hurt.
but I don't think you would be devastated
No.
or disapproval or disappointing because that's a conversation in the catch.
Right.
If it's been 6 months and now I'm talking to somebody and I realize what I'm doing is wrong and I bring that up, you're going to be a whole lot more devastated than you would have been if I was just like, damn, I looked at that chick's ass.
Yeah.
I don't do that. Like, I don't have eyes for other women. I don't allow myself to have eyes for other women. I make it a point to
I do the same.
eye contact. Like even
Yeah.
if they're dressed scantily, I don't give a fuck about that. I have trained myself to see women as less than when they dress like that. If you're taking selfies like this to show off your new eyebrow piercing and it's 90% tits in the shot, you're a whore to me.
Yeah.
And I don't care how fucking like misogynistic that makes me sound. I'm married. And that's the way that I choose to view those women to keep that shit at bay. But if I found a moment where I was like, hey, that's kind of hot. I'm like, oh, wait a minute. Something's not right. What's
Right.
going on in my marriage? Because now we have to have a discussion.
Now there's a problem. Yeah.
Right. And it's not even a you thing. It could just be solely a me thing. But if something's not fucking right,
I need to know.
we need to figure out what's going on. Because it hasn't always been that way. We've had an amazing relationship. Everything has been, a little argument here and there, like small fucking arguments. But I don't know. It's not to the scale of this shit that we hear from people. So that would fuck me up.
I would be hurt if you came to me and said that you looked at another woman. I would be hurt. I would be angry. I would say thank you for telling me. I need to process this. And I would need at least an hour to be able to sit down and really work on not blowing up and being mad at you and blaming you and threatening to leave. Like all of my survival mechanisms would kick in. I would feel like I'm not good enough. I would feel like you're already cheating on me. Like I would jump from point A to point Z real quick.
If you did that, we would never have that discussion again.
I know. And that's why I would need that time because I want to have that discussion. I want to fix what's going on. That's why I would thank you for telling me. And I would say, I need time to process this. And I would remove myself from the situation before I self-destruct. Because you coming to me and telling me that is a big fucking deal because you could have just kept looking.
Right.
You could have given her your number. Yeah.
Quick interjection. I have told him that I would much rather him come talk to me and let me know that he's having an itch to look at corn or an itch to message a woman that he may slightly feel attractive.
And what's been your reaction when he's done that?
He has not came to me and told me that he's having an itch to do those things. I'm sure that I would have had the same response as you, as in, give me an hour, I need to process, but come back and say, thank you for telling me, let's work on this, versus me figuring out or him telling me that he's done either of those things, like in the moment. Like the action happening causes me to blow up. This past time, I have been very buried my emotions and trying not to be angry as I had been in the past. Because during those times that I find out, I do blow up. And I have regrettably, and I'm sorry, I'm mixing up my words. I have told him that I am sorry for those lashing out in anger. We have had yelling moments. Me saying we, it's me. I have had yelling moments. Have been a lot better the past few times that it has happened. He has not yelled at me during anything. But this time, I will say my emotions have been a lot better than what they were. But I have told him, come talk to me, because if you talk to me and we've resolute it and it doesn't happen, I'd much rather that than it happening.
When you were a kid, did your parents ever tell you that they want you to be able to come to them with anything? Like you should be able
Yes,
to. Okay. And then did you ever go to your parents with everything that was going on?
no, because of what I've said about my emotions being shut down.
Right. Well, because they've shown you in other situations the way that they're going to handle or react
Or
to those
respond.
situations. Right. So it's no different in being in a marriage. If you respond defensively, scream, yell, throw things, whatever, every time there's an issue, on either side, male or female, your partner is going to stop coming to you with problems because they are not going to want to deal with that emotional reaction. I think it's important to know that it's very easy to say that if he came to you in those moments, you would have handled it the way that she just described it. It's easy for you, Peaches, to say that you would handle it that way in the moment. It's easy for me to say that I would just tell you. Do you know how fucking hard it would be to have that conversation?
Oh, it'd be so hard.
And all around.
Yeah.
So like there would be pre-conversations in my head of what I'm going to say and how you're going to respond and how I'm going to not lose my shit. And like that it's not fucking easy, especially if you were not taught to have the conversations from an emotionally mature standpoint. I would like to know from your husband
What's his perspective?
what he thinks you would do or say or how you would react if he came to you with those I have an itch that I need to scratch.
Well, he already
conversation.
said that he would be fearful of anger or
Oh, you're right.
a
He did
lash
say
out.
that.
He did say that already, yeah.
Yep, he did. You're absolutely correct.
Yeah, I would definitely. I am always fearful of the anger and the lashing out. Sharing my emotions and how I feel about certain things has always been a struggle for me. Growing up, I always held in my emotions. I would not talk to anyone about it. If I felt a certain way, I would just bottle it up and just not talk about it and consume myself in working to block that mental thought.
That's an inferiority complex,
Yeah.
and that's a learned behavior, and it comes from the way that people treat you. What are you writing down, babe?
Okay, so I want to know from the husband's perspective because the wife just said that she feels from her perspective that she has been doing better with her reactions. Husband, from your perspective, the last few instances that she spoke on, do you agree that you think that her reactions have been better?
I would agree. Yes, her reactions have been better. By far have been better. Does she still get randomly angry with me at times and raise her voice? Yes. But when it does happen, I can say that I have the mental mindset of I deserve to be yelled at for whatever with what I have put her through.
That's not how that works. That's how you guys perpetuate the cycle that you're in. You let her yell at you and then you feel like your feelings don't matter and then you can't go to her and talk about things because that's going to be her reaction. In moments like that where there's high tension, which I can understand a burst of emotion, right? Say it's a really hard day, you're dealing with the baby, you just got home from work or whatever is going on, and then she thinks about a moment of looking in your phone and seeing the text messages, and that's like the breaking fucking point, and then she snaps. I can understand how it gets to that point. There needs to be a gentle reminder, babe, we don't talk to each other like that. I understand you're mad right now, and I may have triggered this moment for you. Let's take a break. We're not going to yell at each other anymore. You believing that you deserve to be yelled at because of what's happened in the past, you are perpetuating the cycle that you guys are in.
Yep. That's making excuses for it happening.
Yeah. You don't get punished for the same crime twice. And I understand that there's been multiple instances of cheating. And every time that there's an instance of cheating, it needs to be addressed. And there should be some sort of consequence for what's happened because there was a boundary laid before. I remember the instance, was it Thanksgiving that was the most recent? Or did you say something happened 3 weeks ago?
No, something happened 2 nights
Thursday
ago.
night.
Thursday night.
Why did something happen Thursday night?
She was not feeling good, went to bed early, and I stayed up late watching movies and decided to go shower, and I ended up watching porn through that time.
So when were you looking at therapists? Before doing that or after getting caught this however many times you've done this?
After I was caught.
This past Thursday?
Yes.
So I know why you're going there, babe. I would like to point out that that's a relapse. So even in the
Yeah.
event that he had started seeking therapy and he was trying to do this, if this is an actual addiction, that dopamine response from the brain it's no different than searching out heroin if you're an addict or another drink if you're an alcoholic. So that timeline, I think for me, I guess maybe from my standpoint, doesn't really matter.
Okay, I'm going to let you finish. No.
Go ahead. You're
Well,
good.
if something hasn't happened since Thanksgiving, and the last promise of I'm going to get help and seek therapy is from Thanksgiving.
Oh, okay. I didn't.
And then the relapse has happened last Thursday.
There's
nothing's been done.
Right. Okay. That's different. So we were not on the same page.
Okay.
I thought we were. We are obviously not on the same page.
Okay.
I was thinking more from a standpoint of I'm going to get help, and then there's a relapse. While looking for
While the help
therapist,
is happening.
right, or even while it's happening.
Yeah.
I have had to do NA. I actually had to do NA. I've done Al-Anon because my parents were alcoholics as well. But the amount of people that I know that would be clean for 3, 4, 5 years that would relapse because they had a drink and then decided they were going to go fucking bang a pill. Like,
Yeah. Well, there goes that sobriety. Might as well just fucking blow the cord.
in that you would
Yeah.
be surprised at how often that happens. You would stop seeing people for 5, 6, 7 months, and then they would show up and they would look like a completely different person because they've been fucking banging dope. Like, so that's a thing. I think that if it is an addiction, it needs to be remembered that it is an addiction.
Right. I mean, no, I get it. I'm an alcoholic. I called you the other morning at 11 a.m. and said I want to fucking drink.
Right.
And you were in the middle of work. You were doing a bunch of shit, and I knew that you were busy. But that phone call was more important than anything else going on because
Right.
I was getting ready to lose my sobriety and that
And
shit.
it gave you a support system.
Yeah.
So I was able to stop what I was doing to be there for you in that moment, to give you that support and talk to you on the phone for 5 minutes. But I guess for me, the I don't understand in this is that I've never had a porn addiction. I've had a drug addiction and an alcohol addiction. So like I understand it from that aspect. But in a need where you're just looking to get attention, because I think that's where the porn addictions come from. I believe it's an attention deficit. You have a need that needs to be fulfilled mentally.
Is it that or are you bored?
It could be that too. Well, it could be a kink thing too. Like, because
Yeah.
we know that
There's a broad scale, broad spectrum.
this is a very foreign thing to me because I've not experienced it. I can only speculate on what I believe that it is. But I would believe that comes down from having a need not being met. And if he was like, I need something, and she's like, I'm tired and don't feel good, and he went and took care of himself, that says everything. In the event that they had actually played or done however you want to word their playtime, I doubt that would have happened. Now, if he didn't try, she didn't say no, and he just went straight to the shower and fucking took care of himself.
There was no try there.
Right. That's a whole different scenario. Like,
I would rather you wake me up.
well, we've had those talks.
No, I'm just making it like a broad statement. Like if that's something that we were struggling with and you had a corn addiction.
You would rather me wake you up even without addiction.
Yeah, even without, I don't care. But if it's like 3 o'clock in the morning,
Rolled over and touched your ass one night. You're like, oh, I'm awake. What?
like I said, I'm hyper aware.
Yeah.
But I think it would be important for you guys to have conversations of, say you go to bed and he's up until 11:30 or midnight and he gets that itch. Can he come and wake you up, or is that going to be a problem? I would recommend looking into a love menu, right? Say that he has that itch and he wants to have sex and you are touched out, you are tired, you are exhausted. We're going to bust out the love menu. We're going to look at other things that can not match that intimacy that you want, because nothing can replicate sex. But we can do something else on the love menu. We can make out for 10 minutes, maybe give you a hand job. We can sit down and watch your favorite movie and whatever. I think having a variety of options will also help ease the pressure to figure out what I need in the moment. There are times where you ask me what I need and it just overwhelms me even more because I barely know what I'm going through, let alone what I need in the moment. I think having a variety of options gives a sense of direction and less pressure, like I said.
Right. I also think that it's important to know that sex is not always a physical thing for people.
Yeah.
There are a lot of people out there who need a physical or a mental stimulation way more than a physical one.
Yeah.
And that's something to discuss as well. I'm going to pause this conversation because Unrelated Therapy, I told them to look into Adlerian psychology. And they read a blurb on Google and then gave their understanding and asked if it was right or wrong. I don't think that it's a matter of right or wrong. I think that when this situation comes on, because you were speaking about anger is a tool that people use to manipulate. And I believe that because I am somebody that can my rage has gotten a lot done for me, and I can be very intimidating when I'm angry. And I know that my anger and my rage can get people to bend to my fucking will because they're afraid of me when I get mad. So I can have a calm conversation and hope, where I can fucking throw you through a wall and you're going to do what the fuck I want you to do. And there's two very different things there. And I also know with my strength, I can do that. You know what I mean? So I believe that when people use anger for, I just think that anger is a manipulative thing. Just like I think people who live in the victim mentality do so from a manipulate, control those around me. And that's
I was really good at that.
That's a very big thing with Adlerian psychology. I'm really, I'm fucking deep diving that hard.
Yeah.
Because it validates everything that I've ever believed on my own, and I had no idea it was even a thing. And now that I know it's a thing, I'm like, dude, I thought I was having original ideas. No, you're not.
Yeah.
But they're asking me to clarify more. I would have to go back and read the entire chat to get back to where I was with that thought, and it's gone. So, no, I can't. I don't remember what was said. I just know that I saw something and it made me tell you to look into that because I know that you're going to become a therapist, and you should read Choice Theory and you should read Adlerian psychology as well. His it's teleology instead of etiology. There's a difference. Freud was etiology. Adlerian is teleology. So Adler really does come down to Choice Theory. Those two books, Adlerian psychology and Choice Theory, go hand in hand. And when you read them together, it changes your perspective on things quite a bit.
All right. And this is the last question. How long and how far do I the in-laws, I apologize. And then what do I do with my in-laws? How long and how far do I let it go without saying anything?
You should say something already. Actually, your husband, if it's his parents, he needs to be the one to say something.
Yeah.
And if that doesn't work, then you guys need to separate yourselves from them. There needs to be a very clear cut and dry, this is not acceptable behavior, and I'm not going to tolerate it.
I think there also needs to be shown that there's a hierarchy. Like, this is my family. This is my home. What?
You would think that would be a thing with them having traditional Mennonite scenarios. Like
like they would understand.
Right. Is that a thing in their community? Do grandparents really overstep that often, like with grandkids and children, or is that just something that you're experiencing?
Grandparents definitely tend to try to overstep their boundaries. My mom especially has a very hard time of letting go of her kids when we get married. And she also, especially when she does hurt someone's feelings, I don't know if I've ever in her entire lifetime, or in my entire life, heard her apologize for anything. Pretty much like she acts at times like she's never wrong, and tries to control any situation that she can.
It sounds like my mom.
I'm gonna interrupt.
Go ahead.
Do you have a fear of your parents? Like, are you worried that if you don't do what they want or put heavy weight on what they say that somehow they're going to disrupt your life? Your
I
life.
personally do not anymore. When I lived at home, yes, I definitely did. I do not have that fear anymore. I try to, with certain things that my parents tell me, I try to just let in one ear and out the other, and not dwell on it
You got to
and
stand up
move
for your
on from
wife.
there.
You need to stand up for your wife to your family. I understand that it's easier to let it go in one ear and out the other and not have to deal with the fallout of having a confrontation and standing up for something with them. As a husband, it is your duty to be your wife's protector and to be her safe place. And you can be all tough and mighty to all the strangers in the world and your friends and her friends and say that I'll stand up to anybody. I won't stand up to my parents, though. The two most influential people of my life who can actually have influence in what's going on in life because they're present. As a traditional wife, I would view that as a problem.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I think that would make you doubt my ability to put you first.
Oh yeah, 100%.
I also think that when you stand up to bullies, the bullying stops.
Yes.
And sometimes, and I know this sounds crazy, sometimes that's simply going, hey, I'm not going to tolerate that from you anymore. It doesn't even have to be a real act of aggression. I have told somebody that when I was younger that used to try to do that shit, like I got real serious and just looked at him in his face and I was like, this is the last time you're going to do that to me. And they're like, what? I'm like, the next time you do that, there's going to be a fucking problem. And I was calm about it. And they never did it again because I stood my fucking ground and just wasn't going to tolerate it. When it comes to your parents, sometimes that's not going to be the way it goes because they're your parents. They feel like they have dominion over you.
Right.
They don't.
No, they don't.
Once you've become an adult and you don't live with them anymore, they don't control your life. They can have an opinion, but you can tell them to take that opinion and stick it up their ass. It's not right. It's rude. You're supposed to honor your parents, but you're supposed to make your partner a priority. And when you leave and cleave and move on and do your own thing, your parents are not there to be honored anymore. You're supposed to be taking care of your children and your family. Your family is much smaller when you move out of your parents' house and get married. So you guys sound like you both want this to work, but you also sound very broken with each other. And there sounds like there's a lot of hurt and
That goes back for a while.
dishonesty.
Yeah.
I hate to put it that way, but you guys you're not being honest with each other. I don't believe from this conversation that you guys are being completely open with the communication in a way that is going to let you grow. And I think a lot of that comes from the fear of hurting the other person, which is fucking valid. Nobody wants to hurt their partner, but the hurt is already there. The only way that you're going to heal now is if that honesty is there and you guys start working as a fucking team to get to where you want to go. I believe that.
Yeah.
Is that the end of the email? Do you guys have any questions for us?
I don't on my part. What about you?
I don't. Just I want to say I really appreciate you guys' time.
Yes, thank you. We really do appreciate that.
Husband, are you in the Discord?
I am not.
Can one of the mods make that happen and put him into this month's men group, please, since we just started? I know, well, I guess we're halfway into oh my God, tomorrow's the 15th.
Yeah. Our daughter's birthday is in 2 weeks.
Tomorrow is tax day.
Holy shit.
Yeah. This year is flying by. Let's put him in the men's group, the private men's group for this month and next.
Facts on it.
And then that way he has a support system outside of that. You're going to want to look for Steve and Dakota in case I'm not in there. And then any of the guys that are in there can help you, but you will get a group of good men. And I mean that, like the men that are in that fucking group are good men. We have live calls from time to time and all of them will be there to help you in any way, shape or form. And if you are not able to talk to your woman in the moment, or you need a way to be able to articulate what you're feeling in a way that may not hurt her, we can help you with that. It's the whole fucking point of the men's group.
You can also go into the men's group and be like, hey guys, the thing's about to happen. I need a distraction. Talk to
Yeah.
me about something.
Yep. But that's going to take work on your part. You're going to
Yeah.
have to do the work, just like in anything else. But
Okay, I appreciate that.
Thank you guys for willing to put yourselves out here like this. And I hope that the discussions had tonight, even though they may have come across as, what's the word I'm looking for? Hurtful is not the word, but I'm sure
Harsh.
that there's harsh is the word. They may have come across as harsh. It was all done in just trying to bring new perspectives and show things. And I hope that there's growth from it.
We definitely needed this outside perspective.
well, hopefully you guys find value in it. I mean, I would
Yeah.
like to see you guys thrive. I'd like to get an email like a follow up in like a month, and definitely
Sounds good.
check out Team Vulnerable. Like I
Yes.
said, 30 days. It's free for the first 30 days. Actually, didn't he say he might start charging like $11 or
Oh, I
something
don't
for that?
remember.
I believe it's free. If there is a fee, it's less than $20. But that would be a good resource as well because that's what he does. So,
Okay.
We're rooting for you guys.
yep.
Thank you very, very much. Really appreciate all you guys do.
Okay. I'm going to end the Zoom call
Okay.
and then we can interact with Patreon for a little bit.
Okie dokie.
So let's open Zoom. End this. All right. Unrelated Therapy said, can you talk about the trip to Thailand? It mentions a lack of travel fare, which is deciding factor for participation. So with the travel, this was actually something that we went back and forth with Trova Trip on a lot
Yeah.
because I think that they should just pay an all-inclusive rate. And then when she was like, well, if people are flying from Ireland, it's going to be different than if they're flying from Florida. And I'm like, okay, I'm fucking dumb because I never thought of that.
Right.
My,
We're in America,
right,
homie.
my perception of all of this is that everybody's flying from Port Toilet, Florida, and we're all
Yeah.
leaving from Tampa. So it's going to be the same cost for everyone. And that's not how airfare works.
Right.
We found that if you're flying from California, it's going to be about $700 cheaper for two people to fly than it is if you fly from Florida because you're closer to Thailand. So the airfare is not included in the actual flight, in the actual trip. However, the hotel is 7 days. That's paid for. All of the excursions that are part of the itinerary is paid for, except for the Fifi Island boat tours, which I think was like $325 or something like that we will be doing. That takes you to the island where the beach was filmed and to the Viking caves.
Viking cave.
Some of the meals are included.
There's a meal every day.
Yeah.
There's not 3 meals a day, but there is at least 1 meal provided every day.
Yeah. For those of you who want to use Affirm to go, I was told that you can use Affirm on your own once you price out the entire trip and try to finance it that way. So they will pay for the flights and you can add that to the debt that you would have. But I don't know how that works. So I might be wrong in that. I also know that you can apply for the American Airlines Advantage card. And depending on the card, if you file it for business, you might be able to get like 70,000 fucking airline miles, which may help with the cost of the trip a little bit as well. So is there any other questions on that? And while I wait on that, what were you about to say, babe?
I'm just excited for an update email from them.
Yeah.
I really hope that things can get figured out and new things can be implemented. Oh, guys, if you're still watching, create a safe word. If he's too uncomfortable to say, hey, I'm thinking about go watching corn, say kumquat. And be like, word, let's go do something. Bust out the love menu. Safe words are a big deal to me.
Yeah. Well, and did you ever think that would be a thing for you?
No.
Because, okay, so let's, we have a very strong Dom sub relationship.
We do.
That's not independent of our traditional relationship. I think they commingle very well. But I correlate, I'm going to be an asshole right now, is no different than a safe word because it's allowing me to be completely open with you in a way that I need
just need to get it out.
safety, right? Like alert, danger, Will Robinson. I need that moment of, I need to be okay right now. And I think that from a DS standpoint, that is basically the same thing. Did you ever think that having this kind of conversation would be a thing in terms of safe words and understanding that emotional need to be safe?
No.
It's crazy, isn't it?
Yeah. And you've never just outright said that I'm about to be an asshole right now is like a safety thing for you.
It is.
And now I view it differently, I guess.
Yeah.
I just viewed that as a way to communicate. Like I'm just about to be a dick and you just have to read between the lines. I didn't.
Well, this falls right back into the phone call that we just did.
Yeah.
Zoom call, phone call. I'm not old. If I don't know how to say something to you and I tell you the only way I can say it is by being a dick and I have to be a fucking asshole to just get it out. It's my frustration, my lack of verbiage. It could be that my intelligence has dropped because I'm pissed off right now or whatever the situation is. I can't tell you what I need. And the only other option is to go.
Right.
And that looks really fucking stupid in the moment. So for me to be like, I just need to be an asshole right now. I'm telling you that I need you to just hear me.
Don't take it personally.
I'm not trying to fight with you. I love you. Like, so it is very much about, I don't want to piss you off. I don't want to escalate this. I don't want to hurt you. I'm not trying to be inappropriate. I need you to be safe with me right now. And that is what that is. And it works. And if you were to be like platypus and then said some off the wall shit, I'd be like, why
right.
I understand why she said platypus.
Yeah.
Right.
Is there still like a fear that I'll take it the wrong way? Do you feel as if that happens? Do you think I navigate that really well? Because it's hard for me to not take it personally.
There's a difference between it's still happening and you navigating it well, because it does still happen. It happens from both of us. There are a lot of times where there's a lot of fucking times where you will say something and I just won't get it.
Yeah.
And like I'm human. Sometimes I feel like you're attacking me with shit and I'm like, what the fuck? And then you'll be like, why are you getting defensive? And I'm like, well, because you, and you'll be like, I didn't. I'm like, okay, wait a minute. And I don't understand. And there are people out there who would hear those conversations and be like, oh, she's gaslighting him because she did say that. Well, you may have said whatever you said and I may have heard it however I heard it. But if you're willing to stop what we're doing
and elaborate
and we can have a conversation, I don't give a fuck if you're gaslighting him or not, because now I understand what the fuck you're talking about.
Right.
So if you are trying to be a fuckface to me and then you realize you're being a fuckface and you backpedal and you're no longer a fuckface, it's a win. Because now we're not having conflict. We're having an understanding and I need that.
Okay, so me navigating is a better way to phrase it.
Yes, you navigate it. Yes.
Okay.
Yes. That fear of having conversations will never go away from me.
I know. I get it. I still feel that too. I have to like pep talk myself up to do it.
Right. And it's not even, sometimes it's not even about the way that you're going to take it. I just don't want to have a fight with you. Right. And I know that that's lived experiences because of the women who have been in my life. I know that if I have an issue, it's going to become a real issue and it's not going to just be a conversation, which is why I'm so good at working through my problems on my fucking own and never bringing it up, because it's not going to fucking matter if I bring it up. If I can resolve it and I'm good afterwards, that's the important thing. Right.
I do that too. Yeah.
And that's healthy. That's normal adult shit. Like, this is not an everybody problem. This is a me problem. And the more I understand what the actual problem is, I can fix it and I don't become a burden to other people. So
I want to clarify that there's not a fear in me because I think you're going to downplay my feelings. It's past lived experience. That's me actively working through trauma and reminding myself he cares.
right.
Like, even if he has a reaction instead of a response, we can work through it together. He's willing to try to understand and all of those things.
If you're driving and the people in front of you slam on their brakes and you slam on their brakes, that's a reaction.
Yeah.
If the people in front of you have enough distance and they slam on their brakes and you slow down and get in the next lane, that's a response because you were ready for it.
Yeah.
If we are having a conversation and I am doing something that is not having me pay attention to the car in front of me and you come out of nowhere and hit my fucking brakes, I'm going to react. If we have a soft startup leading into a conversation and I have time to turn my blinker on and get in the other lane so I can avoid the oncoming collision and I can respond to the situation, we are going to have a very different outcome than slamming on the fucking brakes. So how you talk and when you talk fucking matters. If I'm dealing with the accountant and I hang the phone up and you come over and you're talking about whatever it is that you're talking about, I'm talking about money in my brain. I'm trying to process all the things he needs. What documents does he need? We're not going to have a conversation right now. You're not going to get the best of me in that moment because I'm focused on other things. And every time we have discussions like that, people will say in the comments on TikTok that I am training you on when it is acceptable or not acceptable to talk to me.
No, I would rather have your undivided attention.
Right. And they say that that's a form of narcissism and control because you can't talk to me whenever you want. And it's not. You can talk to me whenever you want. But if you walk over and you're like, I need 5 minutes of your time, I'd be like, okay. Because now I know we have to have a conversation. I just turned my blinker on. We're going to have a discussion. But if you come over and word vomit while I'm processing things that need to happen and I'm trying to make mental notes and you come over and just blah, 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 you're not going to get half of my attention because I'm still trying to stay focused, or I'm now sending an email for things that he's asked for. Like,
oh, I'm going to get your attention because you're going to hang on to the one negative thing that I said because that's what's going to stand out.
and then I'm going to slam on my fucking brakes
Yeah.
and we are going to have an issue versus
Yeah.
a calm startup. These really are simple things this is just normal, decent human being shit when you really think about it.
It is, yeah.
It's wild to me that people don't get it.
It's wild to me that so many people grow up in fucked up situations that they don't recognize that this is how conversations have to happen.
Yeah. Well, because they've never been shown it.
Right. I watched a black and white video. I want to say it was from like the 20s or the 30s, where a husband sits down with his wife and they're eating lunch, and he's just talking about how he is absolutely unhappy in their marriage. And she's like, okay, keep talking.
Yeah. Why? Why are you unhappy?
Right.
Not, well, fuck you then. I'm not happy either.
Right. And they're calm.
Smack your fucking cereal out of your hand.
Yeah.
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 That also speaks on the nuclear family because you have two parents in a household and sometimes grandparents trying to teach people how to emotionally regulate. When I'm a grandfather, like I'm an old grandfather, 70 years old, I'm gonna have a whole lot of fucking wisdom to impart on my great grandkids, like a lot, because I've lived a really fucking horrible life up until this point, and my life is really good right now, and I'm learning more in the last 5 years than I learned my entire time in school.
Yeah.
So like there's going to be wisdom there for me to impart. And if I can do that and prevent future generations from making really stupid mistakes because I'm able to talk to them in a way that they get it. Talk to them, not
Right.
at them, and
To
have
them.
conversations that inspire them. I have gun safety for my grandfather because he taught me how to shoot. And those conversations that we had while shooting and farming stuck with me. Because at 8 years old, 9 years old, this motherfucker's talking to me like I'm an adult. He respected my individual, personal, like who I was at 8 and 9 years old. I wasn't an issue to him. So when he would say shit, even if it was out of the side of his neck and picking on me, I remember those moments. He treated me like I was a fucking person. Most people don't do that to their kids, especially in abusive situations. You're a fucking problem. You learn to shut up and stay away because if I'm not seen, I'm not hurt.
Right.
You know? I don't know. It's almost 10 o'clock, and I would like to wrap
Okay.
this up. Do you have anything that you would like to add, Hotness?
No, I'm done.
Yeah? All right. With that being said, guys, we'll see you on the next one.
Bye, guys.